Hey everyone, welcome back. Pocket Change Market Report for your Saturday. This one is for March 5th, 2022. I hope everyone's having a great start to your day. We're going to take a look at some coins that maybe, just maybe, will incentivize you to go out there this weekend and pick up some coins at the bank or go into a coin show or a shop. Whatever it is that you guys do to get your collective cherry picking juices flowing, all right? It's always going to be a good weekend. We got brand new 2022 coins out there in circulation and across all denominations and across all mint marks. Make sure you go out there and look out for those because, we've come to find out that there are a number of pretty good little errors that you could cash in on if that's your thing. Or you could find some really cool stuff to add to your collection and really make it your own. But today we're going to talk about some of the most relevant errors and varieties to have sold in the last 24 to 48 hours on eBay. You're going to find that every single coin on the list is what I consider raw, all right, ungraded material, because if you were to look at the pricing schedule of PCGS and NGC, keep in mind, it is not cheap to grade coins, especially errors and varieties, where through PCGS, it could cost as much as $95 to grade one error coin. I'm just going to put that to bed right away. You don't need to grade your coins. These will all sell on their own. And you're going to find that every single image right on here, unjuiced, undoctored. I probably cropped a few and mated them together for the speed of the video. And you're going to come across a few photos that are going to be a little bit out of focus. That's just, kind of par for the course. Coin photography is not the easiest thing to do out there. It doesn't matter what equipment you have. It takes a little bit of a skilled hand to do. So, if anything, maybe you'll get a little bit of a photography lesson out of this particular video. But yeah, it's a great day to be alive in numismatics. A lot of wonderful things, a lot of really big errors and varieties to find just from the last 3 years of circulating coinage entering the marketplace. Oh, wow. Yeah, imagine finding a nickel that you could turn around selling for 10, 20, 30 bucks. Just like that. Yeah, you know what I mean. Well, let's go ahead and jump right in. We have quite a stacked group of coins here. We got 32 altogether. Grab a cup of tea or coffee and let's go ahead and pound this thing out. Starting out with this 1956 Lincoln wheat cent. Please also note the condition of these coins. They're not particularly top-notch. They do show their wear really well. I was trying to say that without really tying my tongue together in a knot, but this 56 right here, it's not the most perfect coin. It's got a myriad of nicks. There's even a pretty sizable scratch right here that comes off the T and Trust. That's showing the actual, bright red copper underneath. But really, what do we got going on here that you need to know about? Well, we got this pretty substantial die chip. I like to, I guess, playfully nickname this one the goiter variety. Although it's really not a variety, it's just a piece of the die that had fallen off, at the end of the day, it is considered an error. Even though you can find a number of these that were produced. I know it's kind of counterproductive to call it an error when the same die chip of the same size shows up across a bunch of different coins. So yeah, quite a few of these were struck, but this one right here, definitely worth looking at if you're going through old stock of wheat cents. And like myself, I love going through bulk wheat cents. There's just a treasure trove of various things to find. This particular coin right here, keeping in mind its condition, sold for $14.48. with 13 bids. This is actually quite an active listing here and quite a nice dramatic little die chip. Coming up next, we have a 1988 Lincoln Memorial Cent. Yeah, this one looks a little bit off-center, which could be the case. I would say this is probably more off-center than it is a broad strike. It's awfully close, though. So let's go ahead and use off-center for this one. It's off-center by about 10%. Nothing particularly noteworthy or huge about that number. But this one right here, it's a date that you don't see too often. Now, it's not a rarity at all, but, you know, it's not like that these things are being sold every day. Probably once a week, thereabouts. But you'll see that the coin does have and exhibit a few carbon spots, water spots, which are pretty common on these coins. And this one right here sold for $7.99, which I think is a fair amount of money for this coin, considering how small of an off-center spread it has, along with a few of those spots on there. Now we have a really cool little two-coin group here. We have a 1936 and a 1935. They're both Philadelphia minted Buffalo nickels. This is kind of like one of those possible coins that you could cherry pick out of like bulk dealer stock. I do it all the time, and I've come away with ragged clips, strike-throughs, laminations, which are really common in this series, considering that the mint did have annealing kind of issues trying to iron that out on these particular planchets. But you'll see here we have a cool, you know, pairing of strike-throughs. You can see on the 36, it's on the obverse. And then on this 1935, you have this really long swath, which I think is the more dramatic of the two. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Coins, pretty well circulated. I would say they're probably fine 12, you know, on the low end. You know, they do have full dates on both coins, which is nice. I would say the 36 is more VF20, VF25-ish on that level. But you can see these are relatively problem-free coins. And I'm happy to say that this two-coin set, by the way, if you went to a coin shop, you could generally pick up these common date Buffaloes for right around 80 cents to $1. Okay, they're still very affordable, and it's a great cherry pick. You could find them, flip them, and this particular case, the seller ended up hammering out $51 shipped with 2 bids. So I would say that was work well justified and a really nice cherry pick. Now we do have another off-center strike here. It is a 2000 and something. Okay, if I had to guess, it's either a 2000 or 2001. Just knowing the overall non-rarity for those particular dates. For off-center strikes, I would say it's either one or the other. But you can see it's a decent problem-free example. It's off-center by about 25%, which is a nice spread. It's a shame it doesn't have a full date. If it did have a mint mark, you'd probably catch a little bit of a glimpse of that on there. This particular coin did sell for a rather higher price than I would imagine, at $36.79 with 32 bids. So that was quite a shocker there. But again, the market is a funny place these days. Or how about this 1986 Lincoln Memorial? Lincolns are on fire these days. It's like it's the one series that you could go to on the cheap and find some really cool stuff, including this little nugget right here, which has a little bit of a cut die break right here at the base of Lincoln's bust, 1986. I would say not one of your more well-known dates for this, but, they do pop up, when you least expect. The red arrows on the reverse, just a little, I guess, marker or something for the seller to let you guys know there is a die crack that runs from the rim and goes into the base of the Lincoln Monument. Generally, that by itself, without the cut, really doesn't add a whole lot of value. It's just a marker, okay? It's nothing that's dramatic or it's going to wow you at the end of the day. But another decent sale on a rather circulated coin at $25.48 with 6 bids on this one. There's a little bit of a close-up of the cut die break. As you can see, it's a raised formation on the coin, all right? They're usually going to be raised on there as the piece of die is missing. That's where a lot of the metal flows that go into during a strike. All right, so this one I'm happy to announce was a coin that I had talked to this gentleman about who sold it on eBay, out of all places. This person reached out to me on eBay, found me on there, and had asked, hey, I have this 55 Lincoln cent, and it's a really good variety. It's actually more rare than the FS101 1955 that we all know and love. This one is the FS102. It's the other double-to-die obverse that exists for this date. But he pretty much had asked, well, you know, what do you think about this coin? How much do you think I should sell it for? And I told him, well, it's very seldom that you see any of these enter the marketplace. You know, I gave him a kind of like a ballpark estimate. And yeah, as luck would have it, it exceeded the expectations of that estimate. Ended up selling for $121.48 with 34 bids. If you guys are interested in what the close-ups look like, a lot of your main doubling is going to be in the motto, "In God We Trust." You could see the doubled G, the doubled O right here, the D, and then there's trust. You could see an amount of doubling on there. That's quite nice. The date really doesn't show a lot of doubling, which I think that's where a lot of the rotation is on this one. Just a really neat variety. I own a few of these myself. My best looking one probably looks like this one, which I would say I would peg at like an XF40, maybe 45. Just a really good looking coin. Again, this is more scarce than the FS101. Not saying that it should be a spec coin, but these don't come up in the marketplace that much, and that therefore justifies the $121 price tag. I wanted to personally congratulate Storage Contents, who sold this coin. Well done, and keep it going. That's a really nice sale. Here's a 1970 Lincoln Memorial. Yeah, it's a little bit off center. I would say another 10%er here, but you know, it is a decent looking coin at first glance, but you'll notice that it does have a really long scratch. Okay, that's postman damage on there. So, I mean, if you do need the state and there are none else in the marketplace for you to grab, this might be your opportunity right here. Now, it didn't sell for nothing, okay? The scratch did affect the overall final price on this one at $18.50 with 7 bids. I've seen other 1970s sell for around $30 to $40 on average. So yeah, the price, the value did hurt a little bit on this one because of that scratch, but at the end of the day, it's still sold, and for a pretty decent amount of money. Now, if you have a surplus of star notes, and they're all kind of like common, high print run type stuff, you can actually group them all together and sell them, all right, as a bunch. Now, this seller had $115 face value of just basic high print run star notes. There might be a few gems in there to add to your collection if you're looking for that, but really the big takeaway is what do you do with all these star notes that you find? Especially if you go through bank straps quite consistently, you're going to end up with a pretty healthy size of these notes without even thinking about it. This particular lot sold for $176.99. When we do the math, we take away the shipping, we take away the eBay fees. The seller had probably profited about $45 to $50 on this one, which at the end of the day, it's better than this good old stick in the eye. You know, it eliminates a lot of the extra work that's involved with trying to sell these individually for $2 or $3, which could end up, you know, causing severe brain hemorrhage if you're not careful, because there's just so many of them. But you know, someone will look at this, you know, they'll probably end up either selling them individually or in packs of 10, you know, just trying to kind of squeeze the blood out of a turnip, if that makes sense, for any sort of profitability at this point. But there you go. Nice little healthy stack of star notes. Pretty nice profit. Now here's a 1951D Lincoln Wheat Cent. This one is actually pretty cool. This is one that you don't come across too often. I mean, it's a common date wheatie. What am I talking about, right? But this is a BIE die chip. And anything outside of like a 1956, 57D, 55, 55D, 55S, those are all common dates for BIEs. But 51D, I could honestly say it doesn't show up on the secondary market too often. So if you're looking for a BIE die chip and you're not necessarily collecting by the actual attribution number of these, then this is the one here for you. This one ended up selling for $11.19 with 10 bids. It's not a high grade example, but you know, considering that it is a coin that's sold in excess of $10, I would list these all day long for that kind of money. Here's a 2-coin lot. Neat little pair oddities, 1974D Lincoln Memorial cents. They were photographed in their respective older 2x2 holders, which again, I don't recommend. As you can tell from here, the focus issues I continue to mount. You do have those pesky staples, for crying out loud, that would make any grown man cry. But the focus issues and the white balance and the lighting and all that stuff doesn't really do these coins justice. It is a 2-coin lot of double struck errors, quite minor. The double struck secondary strikes on them are well off center by about 90% or more. The coin on the right looks a lot better than the one on the left. There is the reverse of them for your consideration. I would say they're BU with stains and carbon spots, that sort of thing. But this 2-coin set did sell for $43.99. Here's another off-center strike, and it's a Jefferson nickel this time, but no readable date, so we don't know what we have here, but it's a decent coin. Normally, I would say if you have these, I would probably sell them, only because the market's really good right now. And the ones I would keep are the ones with full dates on them, especially your more scarcer, lesser seen dates. So what does a no-date Jefferson nickel off-center strike sell for? This one sold for $22.99 as a buy it now listing. That's probably how I would sell these, as opposed to just giving them away through standard auction formats. And we do have a number of Roosevelt dime off-center errors as well. How about 88D? We don't see a lot of Roosevelt dime off-centers, but this is a pretty cool one. It's about 50% off-center. Full date, pretty decent shape. I would say this one would fit just right at home in a date set of this particular error type. Sold for $40. And this one right here also sold for $40 from the same seller. This time it's an 85D. So we had a pair of Denver Mint off-center strike coins. This one is in a lot better shape than the previous coin. You can also make the argument it was probably also a saddle strike as well, because you do see some irregularity at the top there, right by Roosevelt's ear and eye. Anytime you see kind of like that irregular edge and not a really nice round edge, it could be a saddle strike where another coin was also off center and touched a little bit to form that flatness right there. And yeah, here's a great example of a coin that was really out of focus. But if you kind of just wince your eyes a little bit, you'll see that it is a Roosevelt dime. This one is a 96p, so we have a Philadelphia this time. It's off center by about 45%, not quite half there. Pretty nice looking coin. This one sold for $39.85. So staying around that $40 price level for these. All right, our feature coin of the day is going to be this 2018P, as I would like to refer it as to the Jefferson's birthplace, attacked by the Kraken, because there is a pretty gnarly looking tentacle that's flying out of the top of the dome of Monticello. So what exactly do we have there? This is a really neat oddity, and you do see these type of oddities across the last 4 to 5 years of Jefferson nickels. And what that is, ladies and gentlemen, is what they refer to as a die dent. All right, so something had fallen onto a die and created that impression right there. And then when it strikes subsequent coins with that same working die, it's going to produce that raised anomaly wherever the item had fallen onto the die or what have you. There's a few different ways that these are caused, but this one right here just looks really neat. You come across these when you least expect them, and they always show up on Philadelphia struck Jefferson nickels. As recently as 2021, there have been a number of these die dent error type coins out there. So this one right here sold for $11.50 with 4 bids. Again, when you could find one out of a roll, more than likely you'll find more, especially if you're going through BU rolls. That's what kind of be your sweet spot. So this is something similar that I would try and look for on the new 2022 nickels. You find one, and they're going to be a pretty good seller. They generally sell in that $15 to $20 range right out of the gate. You have a number of them. You could throw them all up on eBay, and you'll have buyers for every single one of them. People do like these. Yeah, it's a little bit out of focus, but this is indeed a 1981 Philadelphia minted Lincoln Memorial. It's off center by about 65% this time around. And this one sold for $24.24. Coin is in really nice shape. I would say it's probably a red-brown in the mid-state scale of Lincolns, but there you go, another good one, tougher date. And here's a 64 as well. I've seen a few 64s sell here in the last few months, so this is probably one that if I were looking at, I'd probably, just hold off on it till a better one comes along. But, if you did need one, this is a good one here. It's off-center by about 15%, and it's sold for $45. The 64 off-center strike does come along maybe once a month. So if you were hard up, this is one right here that $45. You probably maxed out the potential on this one. Our first piece of currency. Is this our first? No, not really. Technically our second, right? Because we had that stack of star notes. But we have a 1977A with a partial back-to-front wet ink transfer. All right, so this is kind of like the paper equivalent of a clash die on coinage, and when the impression cylinder has no sheet sitting on it, because the impression cylinder actually does all the movement for the printing process. When that impression cylinder hits a wettened printing plate stack, it's going to leave a lot of ink on the impression cylinder. So when the next sheet does finally feed in there, it's going to print whatever was on that printing plate onto the reverse. And then you get these dramatic results, much like this right here. This one ended up selling for $99.95. The values just seem to be going up on these in spite of the supply, which is still quite nice out there if you're looking for one. There are a number of these available in the marketplace for around $100. But I don't think that'll last too long. Especially for the full front to back or back to front wetting transfers, they are disappearing, and they are beginning to eclipse that $300 level. Whereas 2 years ago, you could have picked those up for around $100. So we're seeing a pretty good shift in these. I'm not saying that if you have some that you should sell them right now, but the market is pretty good. And there's a back of the note showing not really anything noteworthy, just a little bit of a misalignment on this particular plate to paper ratio there. It's a little crooked actually, now that I see it. But that's within tolerances. Nothing noteworthy here. It's always a good one to talk about. The 95 Lincoln Memorial Double Die Obverse. This is, of course, the FS 101 in the Cherry Picker's Guide. Always a good coin to find, but I think these things are starting to go up, especially in mid-state red. All right, so these are starting to creep up in price. It used to be back in the heyday. When I mean heyday, 2019 era, you could pick these up for around $30 because they literally grew on trees. That's how common they were. But collectors, investors, people in general are buying a lot of these ungraded 95s, and there's some close-ups. Of course, your strongest doubling is on Liberty specifically, but you also have really nice doubling on the motto "In God We Trust" as well. This one right here in this particular grade, which is nice, sold for $65.25 with 20 bids. I would have to say, if it did go to a grader, it probably sit around $64, $65. Which, again, the price would still be the same for a graded example in that particular numerical grade. All right, quick little update. Full $25 face value bank box of 2022 P Lincoln Shield cents. I love bringing this topic up because we're always finding one or two of them sell every day. All right, so that's how active this particular part of the numismatics market is for bank boxes. This one right here sold for $115. Again, people are profiting about $50 net after shipping and fees. So again, pretty nice little, I guess, profit opportunity if you're able to get these in quantity. They have been selling regularly. Here's a 1990p candy half dollar. It's off center by about 15%. Again, these type of errors on the bigger denominations are always a hit. So they are definitely worth looking for. Maybe a coin shop has them on the cheap at like $10. I've seen it before. They just want to fire sale them. But these have a strong secondary market. This one sold for $85.99 with 8 bids. Keeping in mind that a similar coin, maybe a quarter, sells for a mere fraction of that, like $20. It's that crazy. And it just goes to show you that off-center strike, Kennedys, Susan B. Anthony's, Ike dollars are all the rage right now because there's just not nearly as many of them out there. Now here's a pretty neat kind of like starter set of off-center struck Jefferson nickels if you're looking for it. And we have an 89p, was that 93p or 95p, 96p, another 96p, and then one with no readable date. So, again, look out for lots for the potential of a good flip. You could sell them individually. However, I think this one being sold for $125. There's really not a whole lot more meat left on the bones for this one. At $25 a coin, you're pretty much maxed out. But hey, these are really nice mid-state coins. They were probably discovered in a mid-sewn bag at one point, which a lot of people went through back in the day. But man, this is a really nice mid-state set of 5 coins here. Oh, whoa. Now, it's another candy half dollar error. And this time it's a broad strike. A little bit off center, not too bad. Same date, 1990p. I think 1990 was a common date for off-centers and broad strikes because I've seen quite a few of them in the past. This one right here sold for $26.50 with 2 bids. The broad strike isn't spectacular, but it is a really nice high-grade coin. I think it sold for a little bit under what the typical market is for something like this. I've seen them sell for like $30 to $40. So right here, pretty nice coin to add to the old collection. Oh, it's everybody's favorite denomination, right? I know it is mine. I like the reverse imagery a whole heck of a lot on these $2 bills. 1976 was a very commonly printed one. What do we got going on here? No, it's not the serial number, although intriguing, with 3 pairs on there, isn't considered a fancy. Not at all, not by a long shot. Although, if you went on to like My Coin Collection, the place where you go to check out star notes, you could type these in there and see what the interest factor is on it. It'll probably be like 90% neat or whatever it is. But what we have here is a really minor misaligned third print. You can see just based off of the shift of the green seal is telling on this one. You can see everything is shifted up and to the right a little bit. You can see the 5 is overlapping the first initial print. And this is minor, but this is something that a lot of people overlook each and every single day, where you could really pull this out and see a lot of potential in it. This one sold for $60.51. So, yeah, I guess we won't be overlooking these too much longer. Again, there's that beautiful back printing there, the signing of the Declaration of Independence in good old 1776. Just a neat printing. All right, so this is one of those $10 rolls that you could have picked up at the U.S. Mint for, at the time, cheap. But at first glance, it looked expensive because the $25 face value bag was, what, $40? So, to a lot of people, they're not going to see that initial kind of like wow factor because, like, well, why am I paying, $40 for $25 face of circulating coinage? But it's for coins like this. These things sell out every single time they come up onto the marketplace. The next one, that Sally Rides, come out the end of the month. March 22nd, I believe. But this one has that twig die gouge right there at the eagle's, I guess, little beak area, which is just a very, very coincidental placement for that, and people have really loved it. So we have a full roll with the potential of there being more. That one error just so happens to be a roll ender coin, which is really cool, okay? And this one right here sold for $129.95. Again, let me reiterate, that's $130 for one $10 face roll of these. That's how crazy the market is for these Mint State BU rolls from the Mint. Now, we've seen these before, but we're going to talk about another one, 2021 Lincoln. Looks like he's smoking and blowing out smoke. But as you can see, it's also got some feeder finger scrapes in certain areas right there in front of his beard. And the little strike through, there is a correlation between that and the feeder finger scrapes. They actually call it a field restricted strike through, where the feeder fingers actually have a little bit of that grease on there on the tip of it, and it scrapes along and leaves some of the trail of that grease onto the working die. So when it strikes other coins, it's going to leave stuff like that. And that's why on these coins where you do have a lot of feeder finger scrapes and strike throughs, there's a number of them that we've seen in the last 2 years. They're always kind of like right near each other, and there's a lot of connection between the two. This one right here sold for $25. Pretty solid amount of money. Again, 2021s are still out there in full BU roll form. If you could find them, I would certainly grab a hold of them. This is a cool one here, 1975 Jefferson nickel with a really neat strike through on the reverse. It looks like it was struck through a detached lamination from another coin. That's just a pure guess. It could be a few different things, obviously, but that is a pretty good kind of guess on this one. But yeah, it's just this is a really neat find. This one sold for $178.50. Is it worth all the money? I think based off of the overall dramatic appearance of the strike through, it is certainly worth quite a bit of money. I think $178 or whatever it is isn't too far off on this one. Well, what do we have here? We have a full San Francisco Proof set, 1983 coins. Well, this one's here for a reason. And strangely enough, there were 2 listings that sold within minutes of each other of the same thing. But this one has the missing mint mark, 1983 Roosevelt dime. Yeah, have you guys forgot about this one? Because I haven't. This is one I've always tried to cherry pick, and someone always ends up beating me to it. That's okay, because, when someone beats you to it, they know what's up. And this is a very scarce, inadvertent error, which is actually dubbed a variety in the variety, field. This one right here sold for $645.40. It seems like a lot, but trust me, that price is justified. That's like a just moderate amount of money for this coin. For the set rather, but yeah, another good one to look out for. And again, it's a coin that you don't need to grade. You end up sending this off to PCGS. If it does not come back a 70, it will still be the $600 to $800 coin. So keep that and take that into consideration. Now here's a really nice 1864 Indian head cent. This is, of course, the L on ribbon. It's the one that everybody loves of the series. It's in really nice shape, too. A beautiful XF45 plus. But this one was also sold as a 180-degree rotated die error. It doesn't show up on here because the seller had oriented the coins as such, so where you could see them upright on both sides. One of my favorite sellers, Coins and Cards, sells some pretty phenomenal coins. We've seen 72 DDOs. We've even seen a 55 DDO sold by the same seller. Just a really, really good seller overall. One of the more high quality ones. And this bad boy sold for $290 with 27 bids. I would have loved to own this. It's such a beautiful coin. It might even been a repunch date as well. Wish I could have gotten a little closer on that. It looks good. I love it. Here's our good old crown die chip friend on the 2021 P Washington crossing the Delaware. These things are still out there in the marketplace. And while they're not worth $150 to $200 anymore, they're still worth money. You can see that big, huge crown die chip right above his head on the reverse that goes into E pluribus unum. So that's why it's so nice. There's a little bit of a close-up for you. Always a good one. Sold for $90.99 with 20 bids. So these have kind of settled in that $75 to $100 range these days. There have been a few of them that have sold in the last day. There's actually one that sold, I think, 8 hours ago, 10 hours ago, for $115. So you will get some, that's have sold for that amount. Here's another one here, 2003 A $1 bill, misaligned third print. So you see that third print shifted to the right. You do have some overlap in areas, which is what you want to see for the dramatic nature of this particular error. This one sold for $94. Again, a very solid error type that is being scooped up still out there by collectors. And then finally, we're going to end off the PCMR this week with a, last year's silver 1964D Cud die break Roosevelt dime. You can see that Cud right here above Roosevelt's head. Pretty nice size, too. There's just something about Cuds and silver that just go well together. And this one, yeah, nothing like a typical Cud on a clad era Roosevelt. Sold for $112.45. with 22 bids. Just a beautiful coin. Yeah, and it looks like it's circulated a little bit. So these are out there. Make sure you check your scrap silver across all types for these Cuds and major die cracks and stuff, because you can make a good deal of money on those because they're considered obsolete type by the community. But that's it, guys. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Hopefully you guys got a little bit of inspiration as you head into the weekend. Go ahead, check out some coins, go to your favorite show, and have fun with it. Would love to hear, some of your recent cherry picks. If you have something worth talking about, go ahead and post them below in the comment section. Of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell. It's the notification time. Coinaholics, we're discovering together still into March 2022. I think we are. You guys take care, and I'll see you on the next coin video. So long.